depending on the individuals involved, Yemanja or Shun or Ya or Lokun or Batala would be useful in the process.
We have another question, sir. We have another question. From 954. I'm gonna bring them on the line. 954.
Hello?
You're on the line. 954. Okay. They didn't want to say anything. They went off. We have a question from 404. 404.
Okay.
You're on the line.
Alafia, Astrorisa, Alafia, Chief Alagba. This is Sharami.
Alafia.
How y'all doing
Wait a minute.
today?
Didn't I just see you? I do play Osha Rami. Osha Rami was with us yesterday evening, and she assisted us in celebrating our ancestors. I do play Osha Rami.
All right.
Yes, it was such an honor to be there. I really did enjoy it. I wanted to ask you something. I actually had a client that set up an ancestral altar by themselves they said they had went online and found out how to set up an altar. Anyway, their ancestors started walking around their house and causing havoc and everything. So,
and when they say they set up an ancestral altar, what did they do? Do you know?
I don't know everything that they did. I just know whatever information they got, they used off of the internet. So whenever I work with my clients, I tell them that it's something that I feel like, because you need to know where your ancestors want to be set up at. You need to know there's so many questions that you have to ask and do. So I always when I work with a client, tell them, I'm going to set it up for you. If you have something there, it's not a problem with it and everything, but I want to come in as soon as possible and just make sure that everything is okay. I want you to speak to when someone sets up a shrine. First of all, I don't recommend them going on the internet and looking for,
We'd agree. And probably they didn't tell them and that's why it was important, and we didn't highlight that enough, that when you set them in that corner and you make that line at the boundary of the altar with the chalk or the efun, that's kind of like to sequester them there.
And
ideally, as we said...
I learned that trick. I learned that trick. In
fact,
not a trick.
He
ended up having to reset it up outside, though, because I had him get an E5 reading and see what needed to be done. And so he had to set it up on the outside.
And as we said, that's ideal that you don't have your ancestors in your living space because they can't. But you use the technique of the line of demarcation with the efun or the chalk. But ideally, you want your ancestral altar or your ancestral shrine out of. And it's, for instance, if you have a separate room, that could suffice temporarily. But a lot of people in the cities are not going to be able to do that. They may not have a backyard. They might be living in an apartment, so forth and so on. So we're not saying, okay, you got to go to a park or to the woods, which you could do, by the way, is set up the altar in the Igbo. If you have some place that is on your property, some place that is nearby that you could go to regularly, so forth and so on, you could do it at the foot of a big tree, which used to be done. But we must remember that traditionally, Yoruba people buried their dead in the house that they lived in. So there's techniques, and depending on whether or not they did the necessary rituals, because there's the Isinku, there's the first burial, there's the 9-day ritual, some people call it the wake, there's the 40-day ritual, there's the one-year ceremony that you do to seal the grave. So if they didn't do all of these things, then that could be, they may not have put the line of demarcation for the altar, so that's they're having those problems. And as we said, ideally, you want a priest to help you do that. But if you don't have a priest handy or work with, then you would do what you can do. and seek as quickly as you can.
I just wanted to ask you to speak on that a little bit, because I actually had somebody come to me with that problem. I'm like, what the? And so, I just told them, I said, well, take it down. We're going to get your E5 reading. Once you get the E5 reading, see what needs to be done. So
there you go.
That's how, it was handled. So, yeah. But I do play. This is a wonderful program, and I'm looking forward to continuing to listen. So I do play.
Thank you, Osha Ramey. And we all have 24 minutes. I don't want to just jump in, but we've got people having questions. We got 24 minutes. We might be able to go over that, but I want to go ahead and get these other questions in as well. So thank you, sir, for answering that question. And Osha Ramey, thank you for calling in, my egg-based sister. You know I love you.
Thank you. I love you, too.
All right. We have... Sir, how can anyone reach you? We have people that would like to get DAFA from you and some other work. So how can they reach you, sir?
Send me an email via ALAGBA That's Alagba Olaitan @gmail.com.
Okay, and I'm going to put that in the room for those to look at so they can see that there. Now, someone has a question also about the Egun spot on the back of the neck. I don't know what they want to know. Maybe they can type that in, and then we can get more clarity on what they're looking for, and then you can answer that. So if you would type in your question a little bit more about what it is that you're asking about that spot, and Chief will let you know if that's something he can answer over the air or not. I do see a hand up again. We're going to try this number again, 954-296, and see if they have a question.
Hello,
okay, Alafia 954. You have a question for Chief?
I didn't have a question. I just want to say, Ekushe to Chief Alagba, you're doing a wonderful job. I am so happy that we have to talk.
I do pray for listening, and thank you. And as we said earlier, that we must venerate our ancestors. We must respect our elders. Ma'ia Losha Ye Fini Efumbolade gave us our first Obatala even before we were initiated. And I want to thank you very much. And she, as I said, is our Ialosha, so she attended us at our initiation to Obatala, 1980, September 28th.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, ma'am. It's been that long. And it is good to hear your voice, and it's good to know you are still doing the great work that you have been doing since I met you. Ekushe.
I just wanted to congratulate you. I love the show. It's going fabulously. And one thing I would like to add here is that, people who get information off the Internet, that's what the Internet is information and knowledge. It is wisdom. You have to connect to someone who has the experience to do that. So the Internet is an Alagba tool. It brings you the information. Now, what you do with it, it depends on, how wise you are. So I just wanted to add that and just say, this is a wonderful show. I'm going to listen to it, and I will continue to listen to the other shows when you come on. So thank you again, and it's a pleasure being your Ialosha.
I do play Ialosha. I do play Pupo.
Wow, that is so fantastic. That's so fantastic. I just love that. So we have all these elders and elders of elders on the show, and that's such a blessing.
And let me add this too, since we're talking about that as we said, we were initiated to Obatala in 1980 at Oyotunji, and we went to Igbo Du in Dahomey, Republic of Benin, outside of Ouida, in 1992. So we are also, in addition to being ancestral priests, the chief of that shrine, we are a priest of Obatala. We are also a Awo Ifa. People say Babalao, and Dahomey we say Bokono. So since 1992, November 16th, for those keeping track. Okay, next question.
Okay, so the next question, a person, it says that they are, when they get upset, they feel pressure on the back of their neck. And let's see what they're saying. And that's a little bit new to them, and they're wondering why that is happening. I did put your email in the chat room, and I would suggest also that they reach out to you. Just from what I'm feeling on that. But, sir, did you want to speak to that at all?
Just a little bit. We won't necessarily go into depth, but it could be several things that are causing that. One could be the ancestors are not necessarily happy or pleased with their reaction to whatever the situation is. They get, angry or excited or depressed or whatever?
Yes, they say when they get angry or when they get upset, that's when they feel that pressure.
Right. It could be the ancestors. It could be some physical ailment. But remember, as we talked earlier, that when we said when you're calling the ancestors, you might feel them in the back of your neck. Your hair might stand up on the back of your neck. You might feel a cool breeze come through. You might get chill bumps or goosebumps, people call them. Pressure might be an indication that something is out of alignment, either their reaction to whatever the situation is not as the ancestors may have wanted it to be for them. A lot of people get angry, upset about things that they shouldn't even worry about. Or they have a negative reaction to something that they shouldn't necessarily have that reaction about. But could be something physical, because a lot of people, when they get angry, of course, your blood vessels constrict. So it could be a physical ailment in that regard. What I would suggest them to do is to find a priest to get a reading. Get a dafa, and it would indicate do they need to do they have an ancestor altar set up? We'd say from one question we would have. Do they do spiritual work? Would be another question we would ask. Do they have a priest guide? Would be another question we would ask. So any of those things could help with the situation. Could be the ancestors, could be something else. Reading would clarify that for them.
Okay, and they'll reach out to you. They're indicating that they will go ahead and contact you to get more information on that. We have 6. Yes, sir.
Yeah, we didn't give our phone number. Our phone is constantly ringing. Like we've been on this call and it must have rung about 6 times, and of course we didn't answer. But that's why we didn't give our number, our phone number. And email can be, and once we find out who the person is, what they're about, what their interest is, then we could perhaps exchange phone numbers and so forth. But we don't necessarily do that in this venue.
Yes, sir. Understood. Well, I'm just being the timekeeper here because there's so much information that we want to talk about and ask, and we have 15 minutes. So some of these questions will have to go to another time because they will take some time. But could you just briefly tell us what is the purpose of getting a roots reading?
Indeed. A roots reading is, we say, oro edile, that tells of your family. Roots reading will outline for you what was situation, circumstance, and condition